Nature is a capricious bitch. Fearsome predators can stalk the lands unopposed, only for Mother Nature to wipe them all out on a whim. Temperatures and atmospheric compositions fluctuate, resources become scarce, and populations diminish. Only those who are able to adapt get to keep on keeping on. Get good or get gone, as they say. Yet there are creatures out there that defy the natural order. There exist ethereal creatures that haunt the peripheries of natural experience. There are creatures that, so you might believe, only exist in myth and legend. These timeless nightmares run consistent throughout the course of recorded history. These ever-present, never-changing beasts and demons rain ceaseless torment upon unfortunate innocents. These monsters seem immune from evolution's whimsies. They are perfect predators who face no selective pressures. At least that's what I used to believe. I am one such predator. As I recall, your people refer to my kind as skinwalkers. I take the form of another creature, be it man or beast. I do this by stealing his or her skin and walking around wearing it, hence the name. I won't sugarcoat it. I detest you and your societies. My kind represents the antithesis of your kind. You struggle to escape nature. You rely on strength of numbers to compensate for your laughable physiques. You contort the land to make it more conducive to your existence. You build your dwellings to keep nature out. You manufacture medicines to stave off natural death from disease and injury. I, on the other hand, bring destruction and disease. By wearing your faces, I seek to set brother against brother. I tear away the flimsy trappings of civility, revealing your bestial, primal foundations. I remember being one of you once. The memories are distant and fragmented, but I remember being cast out. I couldn't tell you why, but I yearned for something beyond what I had been born into. I prayed to dark, unspeakable gods for strength, and they granted my wish. Through them, I became something far greater. But you have the advantage of numbers. My people are few, and your priests and shamans keep us in check. We content ourselves with the foolhardy few who blunder off into the wilderness. We take those who lack the slightest shred of respect for the unseen horrors that wait for them. I suppose you should be grateful, for this too is Darwinism in action. By culling these imbeciles from your gene pool, we leave only the wisest among you. Those who know to stay indoors with our climate-controlled environments need not worry. Plainly put, I don't like you, and you don't like me. But we must put all that aside, for now we have a common enemy. Even supernatural predators aren't immune from the laws of natural selection. A new, exciting predator can displace even one such as I. I doubt you would much like such a creature. I know I certainly did not. My story begins on an ordinary night in my forest. I had grown weary of the skin I had been wearing. I took it several months prior from a drunken college boy who wandered off the trail to urinate. I used it to infiltrate the campsite. Oh, it was such fun picking them off one by one. I relished watching their group descend into paranoia and chaos. So much for their notions of some post-finals fun. But I'm getting off topic. The old skin was getting dry and musty, so I set out to find a new one. Following the glow of a campfire, I came upon a girl camping out alone. I emerged into the clearing, feigning fatigue. I asked if I could share her campfire. Without looking at me, she gave a silent nod and gestured to a nearby fallen log. I sized her up. She appeared to be in her late teens or early 20s. She was small and her attire was wholly inappropriate for a camping trip. Who the hell wears a miniskirt and high-heeled boots in the wilderness? She was roasting marshmallows over the open fire. Without looking my way or saying a word, she handed one of them over to me. I shook my head and raised a hand in polite refusal. She shrugged and rustled through her pack for some chocolate and graham crackers. As she happily munched on her s'more, I noticed the marshmallows she was using. The package read, Ananda's homemade coconut marshmallows. Vegan-friendly and gelatin-free. I thought I had her pegged at this point. She was some hippie college girl slumming it in the woods. a misguided attempt at being closer to nature, or some other fit of millennial nonsense. I grinned in anticipation of watching this sheltered young waif crumble in terror. I started up with some small talk. She answered with short, simple replies, never asking me about myself. Throughout the conversation, she indicated that, sure enough, she was camping on holiday. I decided to ramp up the voltage. "You know," said I, "there's talk of a dangerous animal in the area." "Oh yeah?" she replied. "Yeah. They're saying a bear or some shit mauled a group of campers not far from here." She snorted. "And where did you hear that?" "Park rangers," I lied. "I passed a few on the way over, and they've been spreading the warning." She didn't seem perturbed, so I went further. "But you know," I went on, "there are worse things in these woods than bears, mountain lions, and coyotes." "I'm aware," was all she said. I did not expect this, but I brushed it off. This one was hard to rattle. God, I wish I had taken the hint and fucked off to find easier prey. But instead I welcomed the challenge and went on. "You might think so, but there's more than you know. There's old things in these woods, things that you won't find in your zoology textbooks." "Oh?" was all she said. She hadn't looked at me once throughout the entire conversation. She continued roasting marshmallows as if she hadn't a care in the world. I chalked this up to a sheltered city upbringing. "Oh yes," I continued on. "Evil spirits haunt these woods, ravenous, bloodthirsty things. We may have left them behind by retreating to our comfortable civilizations, but they continue to live on in the wild. And our absence has left them even hungrier than before. They'd love to get their claws on a couple of hapless campers like us." "If you say so," came her curt reply. "I do say so. If I were you, I'd be careful. It would be all too easy for them to sneak up behind us and whisk us away to a horrible death." "I'll try to keep that in mind," she said with a laugh. I grimaced. I thought she was either sheltered to the point of outright stupidity or had one hell of a poker face. Regardless, I had grown bored with trying to needle her. I decided to strike. My eyes sunk back into my head, leaving 2 blank holes in my borrowed face. My jaw elongated, spreading wild, wicked fangs. The skin stretched and creaked with the strain. My true face began to show through the disguise.
"But I think it might be too late for you,"
I said in a distorted voice. She looked at me for the first time. She started a bit, eyes widening in shock. But when the initial surprise melted off her face, it left mere indifference. She regarded me with a calm, dispassionate gaze. "And what are you supposed to be?" she inquired. This frustrated and confused me. I didn't know why she was this stoic, but I would enjoy punishing her for annoying me.
"I am one of the old ones,"
I growled.
"I stalk your kind throughout the woods, sowing chaos in my footsteps. I am the one who haunts your darkest nightmares, the one who steals your loved ones and brings ruin to all you hold dear."
At this, she gave a derisive snort. "A bit full of ourselves, aren't we?" the girl mocked. "But all right, Mr. Old One, since you showed me yours, I guess it's only fair for me to show you mine."
"What?"
I began, but she cut me off. "Why, my true face, of course," she chirped. At this, her chest heaved, and her eyes rolled back in her skull, revealing the pale whites. Her mouth elongated like clay, and her eyes bulged and glowed with a pale, sickly light. The color fled from her once rosy face. Black, spidery veins crawled along her now death-like flesh. The air crackled with eldritch energy. Little sparks of electricity danced across the ground and filled the air with the scent of ozone. An awful weight bore down on me, and it felt like my chest was in a vice. As her features blurred, she let out the most horrid moan that I have ever fucking heard. White, wispy flames erupted from her body, I tried to get a fix on her appearance, but every time my eyes tried to focus, her body blurred and shifted. She stepped toward me and I looked away. I heard her joints popping as her limbs elongated. She stopped, mere inches in front of me. I could feel her cold, dead breath on me as she spoke.
I know this is an odd situation for you, so I'll give you a hint.
She pressed her distorted mouth up to my ear and whispered,
Run.
She didn't need to tell me twice. Panic jolted my body into action and I tore ass into the woods. Nearby branches and brush tore at me from all angles, as if they were trying to hold me back. I could hear the creature chasing me with lithe, loping strides. She laughed as she closed in. I knew she had caught up when I felt the stinging pain of claws digging into my back. Swipe by swipe, she clawed the skin of my back into ribbons. I felt her deadly nails sinking into the flesh at my neck. With a shriek of triumph, she wrenched at my stolen skin and ripped it off. The creature exposed my true form in all its glory, naked and terrified.
Run! Run! Run!
She cried amidst booming laughter. I ran on, pushing my panicked body to its limits. I hadn't even noticed the glow of the oncoming camp. I barreled out of the woods and into the clearing, where I tripped over a fallen log and fell flat on my face. The drunken campers all screamed in surprise and outrage. 2 men stepped up to scope out the disturbance. One was a burly redneck with a considerable beer gut, and the other was a tall, lanky black man. The women and smaller men cowered near the tents. I tried to scramble to my feet, but I lost my balance and fell again. The 2 men's faces lit up with shock as they beheld what had barged into their little party. "Aw, shit! That ain't no varmint!" the redneck cried out. The 2 men charged me, kicking and stomping. The black man stomped down on my arm as the redneck's boot collided with my skull. Blow after blow, they proceeded to beat me down. But then I remembered what I am. I remembered how this should be going. With a roar, I swiped at the redneck. My claws cleaved a massive gash in his pot belly. The flaps of skin parted, revealing a slab of yellowish blubber underneath. I backhanded the black man and felt his jaw snap as he went careening into the brush. I rose, towering over the redneck who was cradling his ravaged midsection. I brought my fist down hard on top of his head, and he crumpled. I stomped down and his skull gave way beneath my foot. A loud crash rang out and something struck my shoulder. One of the smaller men stood before me with a rifle, terror obvious on his face. He did not get a second shot. I charged him, spearing him to the ground. I bit his throat and tore it out with a mighty flick of my head. I left him choking on his own blood and dashed into one of the tents. I seized a woman, slung her over my shoulder, and fled into the wilderness. That horrendous creature from before was nowhere in sight. I ran far away from that campsite. The woman thrashed and cursed as I carried her. I jerked to the side, slamming her head against a tree. She stopped struggling, and her curses gave way to groggy moaning. I ran until I reached a stream. My body burned from exertion. I deposited the barely conscious woman on the ground and drank with greedy gusto. Having satiated my thirst, I turned back to the woman, who was making a feeble attempt at regaining her feet. Nothing about this night had turned out according to plan, but at least I had someone to take my frustrations out on. And let me tell you, you think you know pain, but you do not. You don't have the slightest fucking clue. But I was happy to teach that redneck a thing or two. It was morning when I happened upon a group of Cub Scouts. They were packing their gear into minivans and pickup trucks. I made my way up to a couple of the adults, wearing the skin of the woman I liberated from the redneck's campsite. "Hey, I'm sorry to bother you," I began. "I got separated from my jackass friends, and they thought it would be funny to leave me marooned here. If it's not too much trouble, could I get a ride back into town?" The couple, presumably husband and wife, responded with a skeptical glare. I searched the redneck woman's memories and found that there was some money in her wallet. "I've got money, so I can chip in for gas." "I don't know," the husband began. "I just need a ride to the gas station, and I can use a payphone to call." I searched the woman's memories again. "My mom, and she can pick me up from there. Can you give us a minute?" The wife took her husband by the arm and led him away. "Sure," I said. They must have thought they were out of earshot, but my superior hearing picked up everything. "We don't know this woman. Do you really want a stranger around the children?" the husband argued. "We can't leave her out here," the wife countered. "Not after that bear attack last night. Do you really want to leave someone out here with a dangerous animal?" "That story of hers sounds a little fishy, though." "The rangers told everyone to pack up and leave so they could deal with the bear. They likely forced her friends to leave without her." "If that's the case, then the rangers will be looking for her. Let them handle things." "Or we could do the Christ-like thing and help her out here and now. Honestly, what exactly do you think she's gonna do?" "I don't know. I've just got a bad feeling about it." "Oh, nuts to your bad feeling. Are you seriously suggesting that we leave a lone girl out here all because of a feeling?" The husband had no reply. He rubbed his chin deep in thought. "2 people died and 1 is still missing," his wife exclaimed. "2 dead," I mumbled. "I know I killed the burly man. Billy was his name. And the man with the gun, Jack. Apparently the black man, Devon, survived. Haste makes waste, I guess." "Yeah," the husband finally said. "You're right. I still feel kind of weird about this, but you're right." And with that, I had a ride. Lucky me, I earned a trip into a human town. I sat crammed into a minivan amidst a group of hyperactive children. The redneck woman's mind had them cataloged as little shits. I sat in silence with my head buried in my hands. Not even the howling of the children could drown out the din of my thoughts. It all seemed so surreal. For centuries, maybe even longer, I was the one who stalked the night. I was the one who sent people running for the hills. But in the space of a single night, I had been beaten, humiliated, and chased from the forest that I called home. "You okay, hon?" the wife called back. "Yeah," I replied. "I'm just feeling a little lost right now." "I know how that feels." She sounded sympathetic. I suppressed a gale of manic laughter. "I don't know about that," I said. I doubted that she had even the faintest idea of what I was going through. "Oh, I've been through more than you know," she said in a matter-of-fact tone. "I was once lost as well, like a ship without a port. It can be a miserable, lonely feeling." I said nothing, anger welling up inside me. "But," she continued, "I found people who cared. Community is a precious thing, you know. The Savior commands us to look after one another." You have no idea how eager I was to tear her in half. "If you like, I can show you where to find people who care," she offered. "No, it's quite all right." I swallowed my rage and tried to sound polite. "I see. That's okay if you don't want to," she conceded. "But if you change your mind, know that there will always be people who will welcome you with open arms. Here." She opened a compartment in the van's center console and withdrew a pamphlet. I regarded it. There was a picture of a tall, pristine white building on the front. A temple, perhaps. In neat lettering, the title read, "The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." I searched the mind of the redneck woman for answers. I could almost hear her groan when I found the requisite information. Let that sink in for a minute. I'm a skinwalker, a terror that haunts your nightmares and horror stories. And here, I was being proselytized. It would be comical if it weren't so infuriating. My rage was boiling over at that point. I longed to go apeshit right in that dingy minivan. They'd have nowhere to run. It would be a bloodbath. It would be good to blow off some steam. It would be good to remind myself of the natural order of things. But anger subsided into cold reality. Say I did go hog-ass wild on these suburban yuppies. What then? I do not know how to pilot your machines. I can probe a taken mind for information, but not for skill. Without a willing driver, I would only be able to slink back into the woods. the woods where that thing from last night was still roaming. I did not fancy a second encounter. Like it or not, those woods weren't my home anymore. I had to play nice until I could figure out something else. So, I accepted the pamphlet, then told the woman I'd think about it. I have never felt so humiliated. I turned to the window and watched the trees of my forest passing by. Before long, I saw a familiar face. It was the girl, the creature from the night before, dressed in a park ranger outfit. She wore a sweet smile and gave a friendly wave as we passed. "Oh hey," the husband exclaimed. "It's the ranger from before." They all waved back to the thing. I suppressed a scream. It was, by far, the hardest thing that I have ever done in my life. Once we arrived in town, they dropped me off at the first gas station we came to. I thanked them for their charity, and we bid each other farewell. I made my way around back toward the payphones. I looked back and saw the husband shudder as he climbed into the minivan. At least someone knows which end is up. I stared at the battered payphones. I searched the redneck woman's cashew-sized brain for her mother's phone number. My first idea was to assume the life of the redneck woman whose skin I stole. I thought it might not be so bad. I had a ready-made life waiting for me in her trailer park home. A perusal of her memories revealed that Mother pays for all her expenses. An easy life indeed. Moreover, she shared a close bond with her friends from the campsite. However, her boyfriend, Jack, the man with the rifle, was long gone. I'm sure that people from the campsite would be happy to learn that their friend made it home safe. What if this mess was a sign that the dark gods had abandoned me and my kind, moved on to bigger and better things? Out with the old and in with the new, such as the law of nature. I guess you could call it demonic selection. Add that one to your funny textbooks. I withdrew the pamphlet from earlier. Since the gods of the night had abandoned me, then the gods of the light might welcome me. Perhaps it was a time to assimilate into the new order of concrete and steel. What if there are others like me? Other nightmares who were driven from their homes by newer horrors? What if I met some of them? I'd meet up with a Wendigo at an office party and we'd go shack up in Cabo. I actually laughed at that thought. But that reverie was short-lived. I remembered the terror at having the tables turned on me. I remembered the two men from the campsite stomping me out. I remember the humiliation of asking humans for their charity. Oh, the humiliation. I screamed in rage and tore the pamphlet to bits. I punched the wall of the gas station. Pain seared through my fist as the woman's skin tore and the wall itself cracked from the sheer force. I stood, wide-eyed with red-hot rage, glaring at the scraps of paper on the concrete. I won't have it, I thought. I won't fucking have it! Hey, a cautious voice sounded behind me. Are you okay? I thought I heard a scream. I turned and saw a mousy man staring at me. Whoa, you don't look so good. He placed a concerned hand on my shoulder. Come inside and we'll look after you. Looking back, I think I was quite merciful when I tortured the redneck woman. I'm sure that mousy man would agree. And now we come to today. I kept the redneck woman's skin. Her name was Jill, by the way, but I skipped town. I didn't want to give her loved ones the satisfaction of seeing her again. I want those bastards to suffer by never having any sort of closure, not even a body to bury. Funny thing though, I looked into it once, and some of the campers wound up in a mental hospital. It was some nonsense about trauma-fueled delusions, so they say. I wouldn't know what the loony bin is like, but I haven't heard good things. This does bring me some satisfaction, however small it might be. I'm currently working a desk job to maintain a roof over my head. I should kill my landlord and take his skin along with ownership of the building. Actually, now that I think about it, that's not a bad idea. Maybe it's time for Jill to disappear. I'd enjoy being the landlord rather more. Make people pay me to live in this dump. Throughout my tenure as a member of society, I've learned that you people are completely insane. At the start of this story, I made a facetious comment about how I'm doing you a favor by offing some of you, but I'm starting to think there might be more truth to that than even I suspected. I've worked many what you call regular jobs, each more hellish than the last. I've run the gamut from flipping burgers, telemarketing, selling vacuums, and pushing papers. I don't know how you actually view this as something to aspire to. I might torture and kill your people, but this is just weird. Isn't your society supposed to be against cruel and unusual punishment? And the humiliation is the worst part. Day in and day out, I smile and take no end of abuse from my pencil-necked manager. Maybe I'll do away with him before I take my landlord's skin. The authorities will likely conclude that our friend Jill snapped. They'll believe she wasted her boss before skipping town. The news will, of course, make it back to her hometown. That'd be a laugh. Her loved ones would hear that she's still alive, only to learn that she abandoned them and killed a man. If I get around to it, I'll even plant drugs in her apartment. Or frame her for prostitution. You know, just to rub some salt in the wound. But I'm getting off track. I don't expect you to feel sorry for me. Hell, you might actually be reading this with glee. Ha! Serves you right, fucker! You might be saying to yourself. That's fine. You don't need to pity me, and I'd prefer it if you didn't. But now we get to the reason why I'm posting this. We have a common enemy. If this creature is nasty enough to send a skinwalker running, then what do you think it will do to your kind? I haven't felt a power like this since the shamans of the old days. In fact, this thing might be a bit stronger. Looking back, I think it was toying with me, so it's likely stronger than it let on. It was not a shaman, though. Faith magic has a clean, refined feeling to it, but there was nothing clean or refined about what I saw. It was savage, elemental, a creature of the dark gods like I once was. I've perused your search engines, but found nothing useful. I'm hoping someone out there knows something that I do not. Your kind has always been adept at upsetting the natural order. You've wiped out entire populations. And you'll want to safeguard your people against whatever lurks in my former home. There's a possibility that I can fight it, but only if you arm me with the knowledge of how to beat it. Or better yet, one of your hunters, yes, those are a thing, can do away with it, now that they'll know it's out there. Regardless, I'm confident in saying that we'll both want this thing to die a violent death. So, I've given you all the information I have. Now the question remains. Any ideas? Does anyone know what can scare a skinwalker?